Welcome to Tomorrow Unveiled. It is the end of January 2026, and I have to be honest with you. I've spent the last week staring at two different stacks of paper on my desk, and they are telling me two completely contradictory stories.
It's the future-proof paradox, isn't it? It's what everyone is feeling.
It is absolute madness. I mean, on my left, I have the macro outlook. Our research team pulled the latest forecast from the IMF for 2026. Global GDP is projected to grow at a pretty healthy 3.3%.
Right.
The headlines are screaming about abundance economics. They're saying the engines are firing, the tech is delivering, and we are, entering this golden age of productivity.
Which, if you just look at the raw output numbers, is technically true. The total value being created is, in fact, going up.
Sure, technically. But then I look at this stack of papers on my right, and this stack is just news from the last 7 days,
Yeah.
January 24th through the 31st, 2026, and it is a bloodbath.
It really is.
We have Amazon announcing roughly 16,000 corporate job cuts. We have Citigroup doing the same. These are profitable companies. They aren't broke. They're not on the verge of collapse.
Not at all. They're
Yeah.
actually thriving by most traditional metrics.
So I have to ask, if the economy is booming and the tech is miraculous and we're supposedly future-proofed, why does it feel like the floor is dropping out from under us?
Because we aren't just in a new business cycle. We are in what the research team is calling a cognitive economic phase transition. And I know that sounds like a mouthful of buzzword soup, but think about physics for a second.
Okay.
Think about water boiling.
Okay, water boiling. I'm with you.
When water turns to steam, it's still H2O molecules, right? The fundamental substance hasn't changed. But the state of matter has completely altered.
Right. The rules are different.
The rules are totally different. How it moves, how it expands, how it interacts with the environment, it's all different. For the last 3 years, through 2024 and 2025, we were just heating up the water. That was the augmentation phase.
That's when AI was a tool.
A tool, exactly. It was a really fast calculator or a smart thesaurus, a glorified assistant.
Yeah, it helped me write emails, or it would summarize a meeting transcript for me. It saved me some time.
Exactly. But looking at the data from this week, the water has boiled. We are now in the operational phase. We've moved from augmentation to displacement.
Displacement.
We're seeing the rise of Agentic AI. These are systems that don't just help you work, they actually do the work.
Yeah.
And that shift, that phase transition, is forcing a complete redesign of the social contract.
And that's why GDP goes up while headcount goes down.
That's it. We're generating steam now, but steam burns.
That is a terrifying analogy, but it makes perfect sense. And that's what we need to figure out today. If the state of matter is changing, we need to know how to survive in the steam.
We need a new instruction manual.
We do. So here is the roadmap for Tomorrow Unveiled today. We are going to break this down into 3 massive pillars based on all the research. First, the workforce. I want to get to the bottom of this hollowing out of entry-level jobs and really understand what agentic AI actually looks like in practice.
It's the most tangible shift we're seeing, I think. It's where people feel it first.
Second, we're going to look at education. There is a massive clash happening right now between federal deregulation and something our researchers found called the Metacognitive Trap. If you have kids or if you ever plan on learning a new skill yourself, this part is absolutely critical.
The data on that is genuinely counterintuitive. It challenges everything we thought we knew about educational technology.
And finally, we have to talk about the safety net. Because if the robots are doing the work, how do humans pay the rent? We have a historic story coming out of Cook County, Illinois, regarding guaranteed income that might just be the blueprint for this abundance economics we keep hearing about.
It's the so what of this whole conversation. How do we distribute the gains from all this new productivity?
Before we dive in, I want to clarify something for you listening. Everything we are discussing today, the stats, the policy changes, the corporate moves, comes directly from our dedicated research team.
Yeah, this isn't just opinion.
No, they have combed through reports from global economic forums, government policy releases, and industry data specifically from this past week, late January 2026. We aren't guessing here. We're reporting on the now.
Grounded in the reality of 2026.
So let's start with the workforce. I want to go back to that Amazon number. 16,000 corporate jobs in January in a growing economy. Usually when companies fire people, it's because they're losing money. They need to stop the bleeding.
It's a defensive move.
Right. But Amazon isn't bleeding. So what is the logic here? What's the calculus?
The calculus has changed. It's what analysts are calling structural efficiency. In the past, layoffs were reactive. Oh no, sales are down. We have to cut costs. Now layoffs are proactive.
Proactive.
These companies are looking at their internal workflows, at the actual tasks people do day to day, and they're realizing that with the integration of agentic AI, the math of human capital is just different. They aren't firing people because they can't afford them. They're firing them because the algorithm of the organization itself is being rewritten.
I saw a term in the research that honestly made my stomach turn a little bit. RIFs before reality.
Ugh.
Reductions in force before reality. That sounds incredibly reckless to me.
It is reckless, but it's becoming the standard playbook in a lot of C-suites.
Mhm.
It's a trend where companies are cutting roles, anticipating the efficiency gains of AI, sometimes before the AI is even fully deployed or integrated.
So they're just hoping it works.
They're betting that they can strip the organization down to the studs and rebuild it with AI at the core, rather than trying to, shoehorn AI into a bloated, human-heavy org chart from 20 years ago.
But wait a minute. From a pure business perspective, isn't that putting the cart before the horse? If you fire the humans before the AI is ready, who does the work? Don't you just end up with a broken company?
Often, yes,
Yeah.
for a time. And that's where all the internal chaos comes from. But the reason they feel confident enough to take that risk is because of how fast the AI capability is moving.
It's accelerating.
It's accelerating on an exponential curve. And to get that, we need to talk about agentic AI, because I think a lot of people are still thinking about chatbots from 2024.
I definitely am. When I think AI, I still think of a chat window where I type a question and it gives me an answer.
And that is, so 2024, that is passive AI. You are the one in the driver's seat. An agent is active. It has agency. You don't chat with it. You assign it a job.
Okay, walk me through this. Give me a concrete example. Let's say I'm a marketing manager in 2024 versus 2026. What's the difference?
Okay, great example. In 2024, you're the marketing manager. You need to launch a customer retention campaign. So you go to ChatGPT and you say, give me 10 ideas for email subject lines.
Right. I do that all the time.
It gives you 10. You pick one. Then you sit down and you write the body of the email. Then you go to your graphic designer and you say, hey, can you make me a cool graphic for this? Then you go to your data analyst and ask for a list of all the customers who haven't bought anything in the last 6 months.
So I'm the hub, I'm the quarterback, I'm coordinating all the pieces, I'm passing the ball to the AI, but I'm still running the play.
Exactly. You are the human integrator. Now, fast forward to today, January 2026.
Yeah.
Agentic AI. You sit down at your desk. You open the agent platform. You type into the prompt. Design and execute a multi-channel retention campaign for customers who haven't purchased in 6 months. Goal is a 5% conversion rate. Budget is $5,000.
And then what?
And then
Yeah.
you go get a coffee.
Wait, I just leave. I just walk away.
You leave. Because the agent doesn't just write the email. It queries the database directly to pull the customer list. It generates 5 different versions of the graphics and copy. It A/B tests those versions on a small sample group, analyzes which one gets the best open and click-through rate, and then it automatically sends the winning version to the rest of the list.
So it runs the whole experiment by itself.
The whole thing. It monitors the budget in real time. It can even spin up social media ads to support the email campaign. It only pings you if something goes wrong, or if it hits the budget cap and needs more money, or to show you the final results.
So I'm not the quarterback anymore. I'm the, what am I, the owner. I'm just watching from the luxury box.
You're the manager. You're managing a synthetic workforce. And the metric our research team used to measure this shift is fascinating. It's called the effective horizon.
I circled that in the notes. Effective horizon. It sounds like
Yeah.
something out of science fiction.
It kind of is, but it's actually a very practical reliability metric. It measures how long an AI model can work autonomously on a complex task before it hallucinates, gets stuck, or just needs a human to save it.
Okay, so it's like its attention span or its stamina.
That's a great way to put it. It's stamina. In late 2025, the effective horizon for the best models was maybe 45 minutes to an hour.
So you couldn't really trust it for very long. You'd have to check in on it constantly.
You had to babysit it. But as of January 2026, the leading models have an effective horizon of about 5 hours.
5 hours.
5 hours of continuous, autonomous, reliable work.
That is effectively a morning shift or an afternoon shift.
It's a work block. And if an AI can work for 5 hours without screwing up, it can do the majority of task-based entry-level work. And the projections we're seeing suggest that by 2028, that horizon could extend to weeks, maybe even a month.
A month. Just, hey, AI, run my department's Q2 reporting. See you in July.
We're not there yet, but that's the trajectory.
Okay, but this leads directly to the hollowing out problem we mentioned in the intro. If the AI is doing the data pulling, the graphic design, the initial drafting of reports, That's all the stuff we used to hire junior people to do.
Precisely. The research team's analysis shows that roughly 30% of entry-level tasks across the knowledge economy are ripe for this kind of automation today. Not in 5 years, right now.
But here is my concern, and I feel like this is the part the executives doing these RIFs before reality are missing. Junior employees don't just do grunt work because we hate them or because it's cheap. They do grunt work to learn how the business actually works.
To the apprenticeship model.
Exactly. You scrub the data so you understand the data. You write the boring reports so you learn how to communicate. If the AI does all the scrubbing and all the boring reports, and you never hire the junior analyst, how do you ever get a senior analyst?
That is the broken rung theory.
Yeah.
And it is arguably the biggest long-term risk to the corporate world right now. We are burning the bridge that gets people from the beginning of their career to the middle.
So you get this weird barbell-shaped workforce. A few highly paid senior experts at the top managing the AIs, and then nothing underneath them.
That's what the data is starting to show. The average age of new hires is spiking. Companies are prioritizing experienced workers because they need someone who can audit the AI's output, who has the intuition to know when something looks wrong. But they aren't hiring the people who need to build that intuition in the first place.
It's a buy versus build mentality for talent, but taken to an extreme.
It is. Why pay a human for 2 years to learn to be useful when I can pay a software subscription to be useful immediately from day one? It's a cold, hard economic calculation.
And this has created a whole new class of corporate mercenary, hasn't it? You mentioned this new term that popped up in the research, the turnarounder.
Yes, this is a fascinating sociological development because, as you pointed out, when companies fire all these people and try to just rely on agents, things break.
The company starts to fall apart.
Processes collapse. Institutional knowledge walks out the door. The culture implodes. So, to fix this mess they've created, they are hiring turnarounders.
So what is a turnarounder?
These are seasoned executives, usually in their 50s or 60s, who come in on short-term, very lucrative contracts, maybe 6 to 9 months. They're like corporate special forces.
So they're the fixer, like Harvey Keitel in Pulp Fiction.
Exactly. They are the fixer. Their job is to come in, assess the damage, redesign the workflow to accommodate the new AI systems, smooth over the cultural chaos, fire who else needs to be fired, hire the few key human specialists who are needed, and then leave. They are fractional executives for a fractionalized workforce.
That sounds incredibly lucrative for the turnarounder and incredibly stressful and demoralizing for everyone else who has to live through it.
It creates a tremendous amount of anxiety. And that anxiety is showing up in the productivity numbers in a weird way. We have this term from the research called culture dissonance.
Culture dissonance.
So productivity, meaning raw output per dollar spent, is way up. But employee engagement, morale, and sense of belonging are at historic lows. People are terrified of being replaced, and they're dealing with a new phenomenon called AI work slop.
I have to say, work slop is my favorite new word of 2026. It sounds disgusting, but I feel like I know exactly what it means without any explanation.
It's so descriptive, isn't it? It refers to the sheer volume of mediocre, generic, low-quality, AI-generated content that humans now have to wade through every single day.
Oh, I had this happen to me just yesterday. I got a pitch email that was so obviously AI generated. It started with, "I hope this email finds you thriving in your pursuit of excellence in the podcasting sector."
Oh, no.
No human talks like that. It was 3 long paragraphs and said absolutely nothing of substance. It was just slot. I had to waste a minute of my life deleting it.
And that is the problem, scaled across the entire economy. It costs the sender nothing to generate that email, but it costs you time and cognitive load to read it, process it, and figure out it's useless. The research now shows that managing bad AI output is a top productivity drain in many companies.
So we're just drowning in noise.
We are drowning in the work slopification of the office. You spend half your day filtering out the garbage that the agents are producing or editing the mediocre first drafts they create into something usable.
And the scary part of this is the AI divide that the research mentioned. There's a huge gap between who is benefiting and who is drowning.
A massive gap. The data shows 87% of executives are using AI for things like strategy and market analysis, high-level decisions. But only 27% of frontline workers are actually using it effectively in their daily tasks.
So you have the bosses using superintelligence to set these aggressive new targets and the workers drowning in slop trying to meet them with broken processes.
It feels like a recipe for a revolution, or at the very least, a massive burnout crisis.
It really does. But to play devil's advocate for a second, or maybe angel's advocate, is there a path out of this? If I'm that junior employee who can't get a job or that mid-level manager drowning in slop, What do I do? Is it just doom and gloom?
Well, the global institutions are trying to answer that.
Yeah.
And this brings us to what they're hopefully calling the reskilling revolution.
I always get skeptical when I hear the word revolution in a corporate or government report. It usually just means a new PowerPoint presentation.
I share your skepticism, I really do, but the numbers being thrown around are significant. This global initiative, coordinated by several large forums, has supposedly reached over 850 million people globally.
Mhm.
The goal is 1 billion by 2030.
850 million, that sounds inflated. What does reached even mean? Did they watch a 5-minute YouTube video on AI?
That's the murky part. It's a very broad definition. It ranges from full intensive boot camps to, yes, watching a few modules on LinkedIn Learning, but we are seeing serious government money starting to move. The UK's AI Skills Boost, for example, is putting millions of pounds into upskilling 10 million workers by 2030. So there's real intent there.
But upskilling into what? This is the question I keep coming back to. If the agent can code better than me, write better than me, and analyze data faster than me, what's left? Do I have to learn to weld? Do I become a plumber?
And for the record, trade skills are actually very safe in this transition.
Yeah.
But if you want to stay in the knowledge economy, the research points to a major shift in what we consider valuable. We're moving away from technical skills and towards what the team is calling power skills.
Which we used to call soft skills.
Right. But soft implies they're weak or optional or, nice to have. In 2026, they're the only things that truly matter. We are talking about human-centric skills, empathy, negotiation, complex ethical judgment, and the biggest one of all, trust.
Trust as a marketable skill. How does that work?
Think about it. We just talked about work slop. If your inbox is 90% AI-generated garbage, and you get a call from a real human being who actually understands your problem, who listens to you, and who gives you a nuanced, thoughtful answer, how valuable is that interaction?
It's incredibly valuable. I'd pay a premium for it. I already do for certain services.
Exactly. That is the human advantage premium. As AI content creates an abundance of cheap, mediocre information, authentic human connection becomes a luxury good. The job of the future isn't doing the technical work. It's being the trusted human interface for the work the AI is doing.
So finally, being a good person is a marketable skill.
That and being a process pro. This is the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
We don't need as many tech wizards who know how the black box works anymore. We need people who understand workflows. People who can say, okay, we have an agent for design, an agent for copywriting, and a human for final ethical approval. How do I string those three things together into an efficient and effective process?
The conductor of the digital orchestra.
Precisely. The instruments are all automated, but someone has to choose the song, set the tempo, and make sure it all sounds good together. That's a human job.
I like that image. It feels a little less hopeless than just get out of the way. Speaking of connecting and being human, we want to take a second to connect with you. If you're enjoying Tomorrow Unveiled and this deep dive into the madness of 2026, and you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please leave us a rating and review for Tomorrow Unveiled. It genuinely helps us beat the algorithms and reach more actual humans.
And if you're on YouTube, we'd be incredibly grateful if you could hit that like button, subscribe to Tomorrow Unveiled, and maybe even try the hype button. We want to know, are you feeling the work slop? Are you a turnarounder in training? Let us know in the comments.
We read every single one. Okay, moving on. We've talked about the office and the present-day workforce. Now we need to talk about where the future workers are coming from. Section 2, education in the Wild West.
Wild West is really the only way to describe the U.S. education system right now when it comes to AI. It's a complete mess.
Our research team looked at the federal landscape, and it is honestly a case study in political whiplash. Just a year or two ago, we had the previous administration, the Biden administration, which had these really strict safety-first executive orders.
Right. They were focused on things like humans in the loop, bias testing, watermarking AI content. It was a very cautious regulatory approach.
And then January 2026, a new administration comes in. President Trump takes office. What happened?
Day one, those orders were rescinded, gone. The new directive from the top is innovation first. The core philosophy is that regulation slows down development, and the U.S. needs to beat China in the AI arms race at all costs. So the guardrails came off.
So we went from school zone, drive slowly, to Autobahn, no speed limit, literally overnight.
And this left the schools in a total vacuum. The federal government basically said, this is not our problem, let the market decide. So now you have 50 different states scrambling to figure this out. And according to our research team's latest count, only 2 states, Ohio and Tennessee, have actually mandated comprehensive AI policies for the school districts.
2 states out of 50. That's shocking.
2. The rest are just figuring it out.
Yeah.
You have individual school principals and even individual teachers deciding whether to ban AI entirely or embrace it. It's pure chaos.
And while the adults are arguing about policy, the kids are just using the tools. And this is where that concept of the metacognitive trap comes in. This finding from the OECD really scared me.
It should scare every parent and educator. This comes from the brand new OECD Digital Education Outlook 2026. It's a massive multi-country study. They looked at students performing complex tasks, things like writing persuasive essays or solving multi-step math problems.
And I'm going to assume the kids who are allowed to use AI did better.
Oh, significantly better. Their performance on the tasks improved by about 48% when they had access to an AI assistant. They wrote cleaner sentences, they structured their arguments more logically, their math was more accurate. On the surface, it looked like a miracle drug for education.
But there's a catch. I can feel the catch coming.
There is a massive catch. After the initial test, they then took the AI away. They gave all the students a similar task, but this time it was just a blank piece of paper and a pencil. Old school.
And what happened?
The students who had been using the AI performed worse than the control group of students who had never used it at all. Their performance dropped by 17% below the baseline.
Wait, get that straight. So using the AI didn't just fail to teach them the underlying skill, it actively made them dumber, or at least less capable on their own.
It made them dependent. This is the metacognitive trap. They weren't learning how to structure an argument. They were learning how to write a good prompt to get the machine to structure the argument for them. They had successfully offloaded the cognitive effort, the actual thinking.
It's the GPS analogy, right? I grew up with a map in my car. I used to know the layout of my city. Now I just follow the little blue line on my phone. If my phone dies, I'm completely lost.
It's exactly that. But imagine if you never learned the map in the first place. Imagine you grew up with a blue line from day one. If the server goes down, you aren't just inconvenienced. You are functionally illiterate in the skill of navigation.
Wow.
That is what we are risking with this generation of students. We are potentially raising a generation of pilots who can fly the plane perfectly on autopilot, but who have no idea how to land it manually in a storm.
That is a profound failure of the education system if we let that happen. But surely there's a way to use these tools that doesn't just rot our brains. There has to be a better way.
There is, and the research highlighted a really interesting Harvard study on what are being called generative tutors. This is the flip side of the coin.
Okay, so how is a generative tutor different from just asking ChatGPT to write your essay for you?
A generative tutor is programmed specifically not to give you the answer. It acts like a coach. If you're a student and you ask it, what is the answer to this equation? It will respond with something like, I can't tell you that, but let's break it down together. What do you think the first step should be?
So it's Socrates. It's the Socratic method in a box.
It's Socrates in a box. And in the randomized controlled trials they ran, students who used these Socratic tutors showed double the learning gains of the baseline group that just studied normally.
Double, not a small improvement.
Double. Because they were getting personalized, one-on-one coaching that adapted to their specific points of confusion in real time. So the technology itself isn't the villain here. The implementation is the critical variable.
If you use it to bypass thinking, you get the metacognitive trap. If you use it to enhance and guide thinking, you get a super student.
You've got it.
Yeah.
That's the core distinction.
The problem is, it's a lot easier and more tempting for a stressed out student to just use it to bypass the thinking. And in a Wild West regulatory environment, who is making sure the schools are buying and using the Socrates version and not just letting kids run wild with the cheating version?
Right now, nobody, really. It's up to the individual institutions to set the standard. And that's why we saw Purdue University mentioned in the research. They're taking a very strong stance.
Yeah, Purdue is going all in. Starting in the fall of 2026, they are requiring AI literacy for everyone.
Every single incoming student. It doesn't matter if you're studying philosophy or mechanical engineering or nursing. You have to take and pass the foundational AI course.
Which makes total sense, right? 100 years ago, they started requiring everyone to learn how to type. Now it's this. It's a basic literacy for the modern world.
It is. And it reflects what the job market is screaming for. The research shows that 90% of employers are now willing to offer higher salaries for candidates who have specific micro-credentials, verifiable proof that you know how to use these advanced AI tools, than for a generic four-year degree.
So the diploma is becoming less important than the digital badge.
In many white-collar fields, yes. They don't care as much about your BA in communications. They care that you have the Agentic Workflow Management certification from a reputable provider.
But again, that brings up the inequality issue. If you're lucky enough to go to a well-funded school like Purdue, you get the training you need to become the pilot. If you go to an underfunded community college or high school that just banned AI because they were scared of it, you enter the workforce completely unprepared for this new reality.
And you're set up for failure.
It all feels so connected. The broken rung in the workforce is being created and then exacerbated by the metacognitive trap in our school.
It's a systemic feedback loop, and it's skinning in a dangerous direction.
So, if the system itself is breaking, how do we keep people from falling through the cracks during this phase transition? This brings us to Section 3, Abundance Economics and the Social Safety Net. We need to talk about money.
We do. And we need to talk about Cook County, Illinois.
This was the most hopeful part of the research for me this week, but also probably most controversial. Cook County, which is basically Chicago and its surrounding suburbs, just made history.
They did. They became the first county in the entire United States to make a guaranteed income program a permanent part of their government.
And we've seen pilots before, right? I remember reading about Stockton, California. Lots of places did temporary programs, especially during the COVID pandemic.
Right, but those were always framed as experiments. They had a start date and, crucially, an end date.
Huh.
Cook County allocated $7.5 million in their official 2026 budget to make this a permanent fixture. It's now a line item, like funding the Parks Department.
So lay it out for us. What is the deal? What do people get?
It's $500 a month. Cash. And this is the important part. No strings attached. You don't have to take a drug test. You don't have to prove you're looking for work. You don't have to report how you spend it. It's just a stable floor of income.
Okay, I'm going to put on my skeptical hat again because I can hear the critics screaming at their speakers right now. If you give people free money, they're just going to sit on the couch and play video games. It destroys the incentive to work.
That is the classic economic argument against it.
Right.
But the beauty of being in 2026 is that we have years of data now. We don't have to guess anymore. Cook County ran a huge pilot program before making this permanent, and the research team analyzed the results from that pilot.
So what did the data say? Did people stop working?
The labor participation rate among recipients dropped by exactly 3.9 percentage points.
Okay, so it did drop. The critics weren't totally wrong.
It dropped slightly. But you have to look at who stopped working and why. It wasn't 25-year-old men quitting their jobs to play video games. The drop was almost entirely driven by people taking time off for caregiving.
Caregiving.
Yes, people caring for a sick parent, a newborn child, or a disabled partner. It allowed them to stop doing paid work for a while to do incredibly valuable unpaid work that was necessary for their family and for society.
That's a huge distinction.
It is, and the benefits were staggering. Mental health scores skyrocketed. Financial stability improved drastically across the board. And here's the stat that just blew me away. 94% of the recipients used the money for essentials: food, rent, utilities, and transportation.
Transportation was a big one in the report, right? Like just being able to afford car repairs.
That's the flat tire problem. If you are living paycheck to paycheck, a single $400 car repair can be a catastrophe. You can't get to your job, so you lose your job. Then you can't pay rent, so you lose your apartment. It's a downward spiral. That $500 acted as a buffer. It fixed the car, so the person kept their job. In many cases, it actually kept people in the workforce by preventing minor disasters from becoming major tragedies.
This ties directly into this bigger concept of abundance economics. That was the big buzzword at the Davos Forum this year. Can you explain that shift in thinking?
The core theory is pretty simple. Advanced AI and robotics are powerful deflationary forces. If robots can make our clothes, grow our food, and write our software, the cost of producing those things should drop to near zero.
So we're moving from an economy based on scarcity,
where there isn't enough to go around, to an economy based on abundance, where the pie is massive and constantly growing.
But the problem with abundance is, who owns the means of abundance? Who gets the pie?
Exactly. That is the central question of the 21st century. If Amazon has an army of AI agents generating trillions of dollars in value, and they fire 16,000 human workers in the process, where does all that new value go?
It goes to the shareholders.
Right. Abundance economics argues that our 20th century system isn't built for that. We need new mechanisms like guaranteed income or a social dividend funded by a tax on AI productivity to recirculate that wealth. Otherwise, you end up in a ridiculous situation where robots are making incredibly cheap TVs that nobody can afford to buy because nobody has a job.
So Cook County isn't just a welfare program, it's a prototype for how an AI-driven economy might actually have to function to survive.
It's a patch for the capitalism software. It's an update to the operating system.
But abundance isn't just about digital goods and money. It's about the physical world, too. We can't have this digital abundance without a mind-boggling amount of energy, and this leads us to the Gobi Desert.
This is one of my favorite stories from the research this week. The work being done by Envision Energy.
They're building something they call a green oil field, which I have to admit sounds like a complete contradiction in terms.
It's a powerful metaphor, though. They are out in the Gobi Desert, which has some of the best wind and solar resources on the entire planet. But the historical problem with wind and solar is intermittency.
Right, the wind doesn't always blow and the sun doesn't shine at night, so you can't run a critical data center on it because the servers can never, ever turn off.
Exactly. But Envision is using massive, sophisticated AI systems to manage the grid. The AI predicts the weather patterns with incredible accuracy. It balances the load between thousands of wind turbines, vast solar arrays, and huge battery storage facilities second by second.
So the AI smooths out the bumps.
It smooths out the bumps, and then it does something even smarter. It takes all the excess energy generated when it's super windy and sunny and uses it to power electrolyzers that produce green hydrogen and green ammonia.
So they are literally turning the wind into a storable, transportable fuel.
Yes, they are turning erratic, unpredictable energy into stable, storable fuel. And they were doing it at a scale that is starting to compete with fossil fuels on price. The AI is the intelligent control layer that makes the renewable physics actually work for an industrial economy.
And why does this matter so much for the broader AI story?
Because AI eats electricity for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The inference costs, the raw energy it takes to run those billions of queries on those agents we talked about, are astronomical and growing. We simply cannot have an AI revolution on a dirty carbon-based grid. It would cook the planet. We need energy abundance to fuel the intelligence abundance.
It's a virtuous cycle then. The AI helps us build a clean grid, and the clean grid powers the next generation of AI.
That's the dream. But again, this is happening in China. It's happening in specific pockets in the US and Europe. This abundance isn't being evenly distributed. Which brings us to the final and maybe most complicated piece of the puzzle, the global landscape.
Section 4. The geopolitics of 2026. Because while Cook County is handing out checks and Envision is building massive wind farms, the rest of the world is, well, it's fracturing.
We are seeing the death of the global consensus. For decades, we tried to solve big problems with big global treaties. Think of the Paris Agreement. Now, we have unilateralism.
Unilateralism. I guess that's the opposite of multilateralism.
It's small group diplomacy. It's coalitions of the willing. The US, the UK, and maybe Japan will make a side deal on AI safety standards. The EU will go off and do its own thing. China, of course, does its own thing. The big global agreement is dead.
And the EU is doing its own thing with a vengeance. We saw the Platform Work Directive finally coming into full force across the Union.
Yes. Europe is looking at the Agentic AI we talked about earlier and saying, not so fast.
Yeah.
The new law is very clear. Humans must oversee any critical decisions, especially firing decisions. An algorithm cannot fire an Uber driver. An agent cannot decide to lay off a warehouse worker. A human being has to review the case and sign the paper.
That sounds great for workers' rights. But does it kill their economic competitiveness against the U.S. and China?
That is the trillion-dollar trade-off. The U.S. is choosing speed, innovation first, deregulation, let the market run wild. The EU is choosing safety, deliberation, and humanity. We are running a massive real-time A/B test on the future of Western civilization right now.
And caught in the middle of this great power competition are the developing nations. This second digital divide that the research warns about sounds genuinely terrifying.
It is the geopolitical version of the metacognitive trap we discussed in education. The global north, the US, Europe, China has the advanced chips, the massive data centers, and the capital to build these models. The global south doesn't.
So they just become client states forced to rent AI services from the big powers.
That's the best case scenario. The worst case is they become irrelevant. Think about it. If an AI agent based in California can do the customer service work that we use to outsource to a call center of the Philippines, what happens to the economy of the Philippines? If AI can analyze legal documents better and faster than a team of paralegals in India, what happens to the entire economic sector?
We aren't just automating individual jobs anymore. We're automating entire national economies out of existence.
Amnesty International and the WEF both released reports this week, calling it a potential humanitarian crisis in the making. If the Global South doesn't get affordable access to the compute, the actual raw processing power, they will be left behind in the 20th century while the rest of us move to the 22nd.
That is a deeply sobering thought. We are building a rocket ship to the future, but we're only selling tickets to the first-class passengers.
And the launch pad itself is shaking.
We have covered an immense amount of ground today, from the phase transition of the economy to the broken rung of the corporate ladder, the metacognitive trap in schools, the abundance experiment in Chicago, and the energy revolution in the Gobi Desert.
It's a lot to process. It's a snapshot of a world in flux.
It really is. So let's try to bring it home. Let's synthesize this for the listener who is just trying to figure out what to do tomorrow morning when they wake up. We called this installment of Tomorrow Unveiled future-proofed, but after this hour, I feel like that word is a bit of a lie. Can you really be future-proofed?
I think the word is wrong, or at least our focus is wrong. The technology is future-proofed, the agents are getting more robust every day, the clean energy systems are coming online, the tech is ready. The problem is, we aren't.
It's not about tech readiness, it's about human readiness.
Exactly. Future-proofing yourself or your society isn't about buying the right software anymore. It's about designing the social safety nets, like they're trying to do in Cook County. It's about completely redesigning education, like they're attempting at Purdue, so we don't fall into that cognitive trap. It's about ensuring that our human institutions can move as fast as our algorithms. That's the race.
You mentioned something in our prep session that has really stuck with me, a thought about decoupling. I want to end on that.
Yes, this is the thought I want to leave everyone with today. For all of human history, two concepts have been welded together: labor and income. You worked, you got paid, you hunted, you ate. They were the same thing.
Work and worth.
Work and worth and survival. We are rapidly moving toward a world where machines provide the abundance. The machines will do the labor. The machines will create the wealth. If that's the case, our job as humans has to change. It becomes about finding meaning, about creativity, about community, and about ensuring that everyone gets a plate at the table, even if the table was built by a robot.
So we have to finally, fundamentally separate the idea of work from the idea of worth.
We have to. The question for 2026 isn't, what can AI do? We know what it can do. It can do almost anything we can imagine. The real question is, what do we owe each other in a world where AI does everything?
What do we owe each other? That is the only question that matters.
It's the only one left.
On that note, we are going to wrap up this edition of Tomorrow Unveiled.
It's been a journey.
If you are watching on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe to Tomorrow Unveiled, and try that new hype button if you see it. It really does help us reach more minds. And for our audio listeners, please take a moment to leave a rating for Tomorrow Unveiled on Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
And we really want to know what you think. Do you feel future-proofed, or are you just feeling the heat of the steam?
Leave a comment. We want to hear your story. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the future. This has been Tomorrow Unveiled.